biological men going into female prisons.
But they're no longer biological men.
They're no longer biological men. Okay,
they're
fine.
Women.
They're women.
Even if they haven't transitioned, they're still women.
They're still women.
Like,
yeah.
if they're transgender and they haven't transitioned medically, they're still women.
They're still women.
Now, as you can see there, this is what the conversation will be about today, is about these kind of woke students and their gender ideology, right? So let's have a listen to what they have to say. As he says, this is one of the most woke colleges in the whole of the UK, in Britain. So let's have a listen to what they have to say. And like I've said in the past, 90% of my viewers are not subscribed. So if you have watched a couple of my videos, or if you do enjoy my videos, please subscribe. YouTube does not like my videos, especially not when we're talking about this sort of stuff, about the crazy gender ideology that's going on. They don't like voices talking about certain things. So they've tried to cancel me a couple of times. Both times I've challenged it and we've won successfully. So if you do enjoy and if you do want to spread the word, then please subscribe. It's the best way to do it. Now let's get into this one here and let's have a listen to what he's got to say.
Oh, we're here at Sussex University. Today we made a special effort to come down to what is called one of the wokest universities that we've got. We're here to see just what's happened with our institutions. We're going to be interviewing students to find out just how woke they are, the specific topics to do with gender and with transgender. As you can see, I'm in my Christmas jumper. We're ready to rock and roll. Let's find out just how mental they are. Are there more than two genders? Let's start off with that.
Yeah.
There are? There are more than two genders?
Yes, of course.
Of course. Love it. The conviction. I love it. So, help me out here. What are they? Can we talk about them? Can we name them?
Well, there's obviously the binary male and female, if you want that, and then there's some people that are non-binary, and then
so we know about the two binary.
Yeah, and then non-binary, there's some people might be gender fluid or
there's agender.
Gender fluid, agender. What's agender?
It's where you're outside of gender, so you don't really like identify with any gender, and it's just some days you feel like you.
Oh, sorry, agender. Oh, I see. Like, okay. So what does that look like then? Oh, wow. So in practical application in life, just in general, what does that look like?
I don't. Anything. It can be whatever you want. Like, I don't think gender needs to have a specific look. If you want to identify a certain way, then identify a certain way. As long as, like, I'm going to be respectful of you no matter how you look.
But would you support kids transitioning?
Yeah, especially because most puberty blockers are reversible. So if they do change their mind, there's no actual harm to the person's body. Obviously, I think surgery-wise, that should be something discussed at a later age. But transitioning socially, there's no issue with it. And
transitioning socially being not actual surgery, but in terms of gender fluidity.
Yeah, and just like changing your name, changing your pronouns, like whatever that may be to a person. I think at whatever age, as long as
we get to experiment with fashion, we get to experiment with sexuality. Why can't we experiment with what gender we are?
So fashion. I've heard this before. It's quite interesting. So fashion and other.
How can they even try and compare those two? How can they try and compare gender with fashion? I'm really finding a hard time connecting those two. It's kind of really, really crazy to me. But I do feel like it's going to get even more crazy. So let's have a bit of a listen. Just really want to hear this part here. So,
such social norms and values isn't the same as the gender. There's a higher step up, I would have said. Would you have said that? Would you agree it's the same? Like what drink I choose to drink in a pub isn't the same as whether I should become a different gender.
But at the same time, it should be. It should be just accepted to that level. It's like, oh, they've decided that they want to be male today. Well, okay, that's their choice.
What line do we draw with regards to children? So can a 6-year-old decide that?
All right, I see where she's coming from. She's trying to say that if they just choose to be a male that day, that's their choice. It is at the end of the day. It is their choice. They're allowed to choose what they want. But are we going to have to call them a male? No. That's where the line is drawn, I guess. And like before we're going to continue, you can just see how these girls look super, super woke, right? Like, I mean, she's got like purple blue hair, I think. And I don't mean to like pick on her, but, or him, I'm not too sure, but that literally looks like a 40-year-old male's hairline. And yeah, so you can tell kind of where this conversation's going to go. Let's keep listening.
That it's the wrong gender.
I mean,
once they can talk, once they can communicate, obviously.
I mean, 6-year-olds have some of the best ideas in the world.
So let me know something in the comments. Can you take anything seriously that these girls are saying? If they think that 6-year-olds come up with some of the best ideas ever, who the heck is she talking to? she's obviously not spoken to a lot of 6-year-olds.
It's the most
And
amazing
the
thing.
idea and concept of gender isn't like 6-year-olds are able to grasp that concept, and if they are able to say something's wrong
Yeah.
with how I am choosing to be presented, like 6-year-olds aren't stupid.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, it's like,
If
why
we
not?
can get labelled with terms such as tomboys as kids, why
Yeah.
can't it just be more expressed? Actually, I think I feel more like a boy.
Mm.
Because
Rather
there's
than-
no way for anyone to define how I feel as a female may be different from how Alara feels.
Mm.
Yeah.
So it could be just dependent on the person.
Do you see any negative consequences, negative ramifications? Do you see any, as a liberal checkpoint, do you see any consequences of this line that we're going down? Just in terms of a checkpoint, guys, I've heard what you said, but do you see any, there's always good and bad to things. Do you see any negative consequences, outcomes?
I think one negative is some people may see it as a bit of a trend, and they may just. I don't want to, like, what's the word?
You don't want to missell your own
I
idea.
don't want to, like, disqualify anybody's identity or sexuality, but some people may just go, because it's such a hot topic in a sense.
It's trending, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, because we're a lot, as a generation, we are a lot more open about it, but because of that, people may attempt to jump on a bandwagon. Does that make...
Well, the head of the Labour Party say that you can't say that only women have cervix. That's a big...
Isn't it funny that she doesn't want to upset people, but she expects everyone to be able to choose what gender they are whenever they feel like it, but some people are just jumping on the bandwagon, so it's not okay for them to do it. So how do you even know who really feels like it? Do they have to transition first? But she said you can just choose every morning that you wake up a different gender. So this is where it all falls apart. There's no set of, like, this is what it is, that's not. So anyone can choose whatever they want anytime they want. But whenever you're having a conversation with these people and you tell them, well, I feel like a transsexual black female today, then they'll always go, no, you're not. You go, well, how do you know? And I say, well, you're just trying to say it because, but you say anyone can say what they feel like. So it's always whenever they pick and choose. Yet again, as I keep saying, the hypocrisy is ridiculous in this day and age where they believe, I've done my research online, this is what I should believe, this is what you should believe, and if you don't believe it, you're wrong. Then you kind of show them facts that, look, I disagree, this is the reason why. Then they say, no, you're wrong, and you're not allowed to do that. It's the hypocrisy in this day and age where they can't accept sometimes that, look, we disagree, or I'm wrong, maybe I should kind of have a look at it again. People just don't want to admit anymore that they're wrong.
Message to 65 million people, isn't it? So people are going to hijack that, aren't they, for the wrong reasons? Some people will use that. Not everyone's as good and as benevolent as we are they?
I guess, but I just personally think, like, there isn't, like, even if it is a trend, who cares that much? Like,
Yeah, they jump on it as a trend. I haven't just said what I said. It's still their right to explore. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's, if they jumped on it for the trend for the wrong reasons, it's a bad thing.
Sure. So that's one possible negative. What about women coming away from gender and about supporting trans? What about trans rights in sport? So female decide to become a male and then competing in female sports.
Like,
well, we're both on the rugby team.
yeah.
So I have no issues with it because generally when most trans, especially trans women, are choosing to compete in sport, they've already gone through generally hormone replacement therapy. So their testosterone, which is, let's be honest, most people are talking about testosterone, their testosterone levels are already lower than many women may have.
Yeah.
So I honestly don't think there's much of an issue because...
What about the other way around then, when male goes to female? So biological male transitions to a female and competes in female
that's what I was
sports.
talking about. Yeah.
You said that. Sorry, you said there's lower testosterone levels.
Because they've transitioned.
Sure, but they're still so they're not biologically male anymore, as far as you're concerned.
But they're not male. No.
Once they've
they're-
transitioned across.
Yeah, they're female. Like, I don't think there's any reason for them not to be in sport.
So
Like,
it's not a negative. That wouldn't be a negative.
No.
What about safe spaces for women and shared bathrooms and things like that? And
they're female.
So why would that matter then?
sorry, can you say?
They're identified as female. They believe they're female, so they're female.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's the scary thing. Just because they think that way, they expect every woman to think that way. And if a woman doesn't feel safe because there's a apparent woman that's walking around with their dingling hanging out, maybe even erect, wouldn't you feel uncomfortable? Wouldn't you feel unsafe? If I was a woman, I definitely would. I would even feel unsafe in a men's bathroom if that was happening. So I couldn't even imagine how it'd feel in a woman's bathroom. And just because these people are crazy about this sort of ideology, most women don't want that sort of crap. And imagine if you have a daughter, you don't want that sort of crap. It also baffles me that she thinks that if you transition from being a man to a woman, and then you go and play rugby, for example, that, oh, it's because your testosterone levels are now below what it is technically to be classed as a male. Yet again, who decides that? Why do they decide on that level? Does it make it fair? No, it doesn't, because that person might have gone through their whole kind of puberty as a male. They would have gotten much more muscle. They would have gotten testosterone from it. They would have become much stronger, faster, physically, and have an advantage. And that's why you see countless videos online where there's a trans rugby player or trans football player or trans fighter, and they absolutely destroy biological women. It is just gonna happen. I look at these two, and if they play in a rugby team, I play rugby over here in Australia, and I play, you know, for my club. If I ever had to play against them, it wouldn't be fair. It wouldn't be fair. And I'm not the biggest player in my team by far. I'm not even close to the biggest. So I couldn't even imagine they would get absolutely destroyed. Because I've looked at the weight, for example, of a female player who plays professional rugby over here in Australia. Let's just say, call it the rugby league, okay? So they're about 85 kilos. The 85 to 90 kilos are the biggest woman in the team. Whereas I'm 100 kilos and I'm one of the smaller people in my team. So the biggest rugby player is about 120, 130 kilos, and they're usually about 6'3", 6'4". For them to say that that's fine, imagine the girls that want the opportunity to be able to playing against other women, it just gets taken away, and that's why it's never going to be fair.
Okay, yeah. Same-sex bathrooms, etc., etc. Prisons, the issue of prisons as well, biological men going into female prisons.
But they're no longer biological men.
They're no longer biological men. Okay, fine.
Women.
They're women.
Even if they haven't transitioned, they're still women.
They're still women.
Like,
yeah.
if they're transgender and they haven't transitioned medically, they're still women.
They're still women.
They deserve, and they're going to, for starters, be put in a much worse place than they're put into male prisons, which is something that you see every day.
So women are...
Trans women, if they're stuck in male prisons, are put in a much worse position than anything that they could do in women's prisons.
Oh, yeah?
Due to the gender-based violence and
really?
Violence, anti-trans violence that they experience in prisons.
Okay. Well, I think that's pretty great. I really...
Yeah, look, that to me is hilarious. That they think, oh, just because so this person hasn't transitioned or anything, and just because they feel that gender, yep, you can go to a woman's jail. I don't know if they've looked at the figures where these transgender people that did get put into women's jail, the amount of draping that went on was ridiculous. They took advantage of these women, and they've been caught, and they ended up getting sent to men's prisons. So for them to say that, oh, it's worse will happen at that jail. It's same, for example, if you're a pedo. If you're a pedo and you go to a normal jail, you're not going to end up alive unless if you're in a secured wing. There's a reason why they put them in separate wings, is because people don't like them in jail. So it's not because, you know, the trans people are being singled out. It's a lot of groups are singled out. And to be honest, there's a lot of guys in prison who are gay or whatever, and they become like, you know, the woman in the prison. It just baffles me that just because they feel a certain way and they haven't even transitioned, that they should be able to use a woman's bathroom, or they should be able to use or go to a female prison. It's just ridiculous. And that's why these college students, the typical wokies, I'm just glad that they do not make these sort of decisions. And they're always, like I always pointed out, they always have some sort of different colored hair. They're always out of shape, and they're always ugly. So I've yet to be proved wrong. Now, like the video if you liked it, comment as well, let me know what you think. Do you think that if you just feel like a certain gender, you should be able to get sent there, or you should be treated as if you're that gender? Whatever happened to this fight for women's rights? For just men to be able to be like, I'm a woman now. Doesn't make any sense. And please subscribe as well if you do want to support the channel. If you've watched this long, please subscribe and you'll be able to see my future videos. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.